Hello wonderful viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If today is your first time of coming across my video, please support me by subscribing to my channel and turning on the notification bell so you can always get notified anytime I drop a new video. Thank you. Let's go into the story. In the lively town of Ayedun, life was simple but full of challenges. Families struggled to make ends meet, yet they held on to faith as their anchor. At the heart of the town stood the famous Church of Eternal Fire, a place not just of worship but of miracles. From healing the sick to blessing businesses, everyone in Ayedun had heard about the wonders and miracles performed by the charismatic Pastor Obiora. Pastor Obiora wasn't just known for his sermons, he was also celebrated for his miraculous works. Stories of his divine touch spread far and wide. There was a paralyzed man who walked again after the pastor laid hands on him, a barren woman who gave birth to twins after drinking water that the pastor prayed on, and a young trader whose struggling business boomed after receiving a blessing from Pastor Obiora. Every week, testimonies poured in, drawing more people to the church in search of their own miracles. Beyond performing signs and wonders, Pastor Obiora was also known for his acts of kindness. He was a philanthropist, always lending a helping hand to the less privileged in Ayedun. Every year, he organized a massive charity event where bags of rice, clothes, and even money were distributed to struggling families. On some occasions, he personally paid the school fees of orphans and sponsored widows to start small businesses. His name was on the lips of many, not just as a preacher, but as a man with a heart of gold. One of his most notable acts of kindness was the renovation of Ayedun's only public clinic. The walls had been crumbling and the equipment was outdated until Pastor Obiora stepped in with a generous donation. Within months, the clinic was transformed with fresh paints, new beds, and modern equipment. To the people of Ayedun, he was not just a pastor, but also a savior. But behind his polished image, acts of charity and miraculous deeds lay a man shrouded in mystery. While many adored him, there were whispers, faint murmurs about the source of his wealth and the true nature of his miracles. Most people dismissed these whispers and rumors as jealousy. After all, wasn't it written that God blesses his chosen ones abundantly? People flocked to Pastor Obiora because they believed that he was chosen by God. They addressed him as Daddy, a title that showed their respect and admiration for him. People believed his success was a sign of divine favor, and his church was always filled with worshippers who were desperate for miracles. Adaora was one of the pastor's most loyal followers. She was a widow, left to raise two children, Amarachi and Chijioke, after her husband passed away in a tragic car accident. Adaora sold beans cake by the roadside to feed her 2 kids and keep them in school. Life was tough, but she clung to her faith. Every Sunday, Adaora and her children were the first to arrive at church. She believed in the power of prayer and the guidance of Pastor Obiora. To her, he was a true man of God, sent to help people like her. But everything changed when her youngest child, Chijioke, fell seriously sick. When 6-year-old Chijioke fell sick, Adaora's world crumbled. He was her youngest child, a bright and energetic boy who loved playing football and asking endless questions. She spent all her savings on tests and medication at the newly renovated clinic, but nothing worked. Desperate and out of options, she turned to Pastor Obiora. One Wednesday afternoon, Adaora carried her frail son to the church. When she reached the pastor's office, she knelt before him, her tears streaming down to the carpet. "Please, Daddy, pray for my son. He is seriously sick," she begged. Pastor Obiora prayed loudly, his booming voice echoing in the room. He handed her a small bottle of oil and instructed her to rub it on Chijioke's body every morning. "Your faith will heal him," he said with conviction. Adaora left, clutching the oil as if it were her last hope. For the first few days, Adaora couldn't believe the change she saw in Chijioke. When she applied the oil that Pastor Obiora had given her, she noticed a big improvement. Chijioke's fever began to disappear, and he seemed to have regained some of his energy. The boy, who was too weak to even lift his head, was now able to sit up in bed and play with his toy cars. Adaora's heart filled with hope. She told everyone she met in the market about what happened. "It's a miracle. Pastor Obiora's prayers saved my son," she would say, her voice filled with joy. The other women who sold things by the roadside listened, their faces lighting up as they heard about the miraculous healing. It wasn't long before the word spread throughout Ayedun. People who had heard of the pastor's powerful prayers now began to show more faith in him. Some even brought their sick relatives to the church, hoping to experience the same miracle. Adaora's life seemed to change overnight. For the first time in weeks, she felt a lightness in her heart. She went to church every Sunday with her children, sitting in the front row. Her eyes always focused on Pastor Obiora. To her, he was a true man of God. She believed that his prayers, combined with her faith, had saved her son, Chijioke. The church seemed even more important now, as if it was the very place where she and her children would always be safe. However, as the days passed, Adaora noticed something troubling. Chijioke, although he had gained some strength, didn't seem like his usual self. He no longer smiled as brightly as he used to. He would often wake up at night, drenched in sweat, and complain of pains in his stomach. Still, Adaora kept her faith, convinced that the pastor's healing oil had worked once and would work again. She continued to rub the oil on Chijioke's body every morning as instructed by Pastor Obiora. But then, everything changed. One night, as Adaora was tucking Chijioke into bed, he suddenly cried out in pain. His body began to shake violently, his limbs convulsing in a way that made Adaora's heart stop. She rushed to him, holding him in her hands, calling out for help, but there was nobody around to assist her. His tiny body was cold and his breathing became shallow. Adaora's screams filled the night air as she rocked him in desperation, but it was too late. Chijioke, a bright and lively boy, took his final breath in her arms. The miracle had only lasted for a short moment. Adaora was left alone with the empty silence of her home. Her heart shattered. She couldn't understand why the healing had been temporary. Why had her son improved only to suddenly die? Why had Pastor Obiora's oil worked, if only for a little while? This didn't make any sense to her. Was it all a lie? Was it something she had imagined in her desperate hope? Her pain was more than just the loss of her son. It was the crushing realization that what she had believed in so deeply might not have been true. The pastor, the church, the prayers they had all prayed together, they seemed to be real, so powerful, but now they felt like empty words. She couldn't understand why God had allowed this to happen to her after she had followed every instruction given to her so faithfully. The people in Ayedun, who had once celebrated Chijioke's recovery, were now silent. The news of his sudden death spread quickly. Some were so sorry for Adaora, but others whispered that it had just been another story of false hope. Those who had once praised Pastor Obiora now began to question whether his miracles were real or if they had simply been part of a bigger scheme. The temporary miracle had faded, and in its place, only sorrow remained. As days turned into weeks, Adaora's pain did not fade. Instead, it turned into a burning need for answers. How could Chijioke's healing be so temporary? And why had his situation worsened so quickly? Still, Adaora clung to her faith, believing that she had to draw closer to God to understand his ways. She threw herself into church activities, volunteering to clean the church 3 times a week. It was during one of these cleaning sessions that she stumbled upon something that would shake her world to its core. While cleaning Pastor Obiora's office, she noticed a drawer that was slightly opened. Curiosity overcame her, and she hesitated before finally opening it fully. Inside, she found objects that didn't belong in the office of a man of God. Black candles, calabash, cowries, strange powders, and a small bottle filled with a dark red liquid. Under these items was a notebook filled with symbols and writings that she didn't understand, but felt were sinister. Her hands trembled as she took pictures of the items with her phone. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and disbelief. "What is all this?" she whispered to herself. She quickly closed the drawer, her mind racing and spinning with questions. Adaora knew she couldn't keep this to herself, but who could she trust? She thought of Elder Ezekiel, one of the founding members of the church and a man known for his integrity and spiritual wisdom. That evening, Adaora visited Elder Ezekiel. As she sat across from him in a small humble home, her hands were cold with nervousness. "Elder Ezekiel," she began, her voice trembling, "there is something I need to show you." She handed him her phone and let him scroll through the photos. Elder Ezekiel's expression shifted from curiosity to shock. He put the phone down, leaned back in his chair, and sighed deeply. These are not tools of a true man of God," he said solemnly. "Adaora, what you found are items used in rituals. They are meant to control and manipulate, not to heal. This is not the work of God, but of darkness." Adaora's heart sank. She had suspected something was wrong, but hearing it confirmed by Elder Ezekiel made her stomach to churn. "But why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why would he do this? He has helped so many people. He shouldn't have done this." Elder Ezekiel looked at Adaora with sad eyes. "Not all miracles come from God, my child. Some are orchestrated to deceive. Pastor Obiora has been using these charms to create illusions of miracles and to bind people's loyalty to him. The wealth, the crowd, and the so-called miracles, they are all built on deception." They prayed together that evening, seeking God's guidance. Elder Ezekiel advised Adaora to be cautious, warning her that confronting the pastor could put her into danger. Adaora struggled with the decision to reveal the truth. Every time she looked at the photos, the image of Chijioke's lifeless body came to her mind. She couldn't let this lie continue, not after everything she had lost. The following Sunday, during a joint service, Adaora stood up in the middle of Pastor Obiora's fiery sermon. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "Pastor, I have something to say," she announced. The congregation turned to her, looking surprised. Pastor Obiora paused, his piercing eyes narrowing at her. "I have served in this church faithfully, but I have discovered things that no true man of God should have," she continued. Adaora held up her phone and displayed the pictures on the projector screen used for church announcements. Gasps filled the air as images of the black candles, calabash, cowries, and strange powders were revealed. This is what I found in Pastor Obiora's office, she declared, her voice trembling but firm. Chaos erupted in the church. Some members rushed to the pastor's office to verify the claim, while others demanded answers. Pastor Obiora tried to calm the crowd, dismissing the accusations as lies. But Elder Hezekiah stood up, his voice commanding attention. "I have seen these things myself," he said. "Adaora is not lying. These are tools of dark rituals." The congregation turned on Pastor Obiora. Some shouted accusations, while others cried in disbelief. Realizing he had been exposed, Pastor Obiora attempted to leave, but the congregation blocked all the exit doors. Under pressure, he confessed, with his voice trembling. He admitted to using charms to attract wealth and grow the church. "It was never my intention to harm anybody," he claimed. "I only wanted to build a ministry that would thrive and be filled with many people." Few weeks after, the Church of Eternal Fire was shut down. The town of Ayedun buzzed with gossip, disbelief, and anger. Some members left the region entirely, while others went to new places of worship. As for Pastor Obiora, he disappeared from the neighborhood. Some said that he traveled outside the country, while others said that he had faced divine punishment for his actions. As for Adaora, life was a mix of sadness and hope. She no longer went to church, but spent her Sundays at home, praying quietly with her daughter and a few friends. Her akara business grew as people from other towns came to hear her story. She was no longer just a seller of beans cake. She had become a symbol of truth and strength. Adaora also used her time to help others. She started giving food to widows and children who didn't have enough to eat. People who had lost faith in church came to Adaora for advice, and she became a trusted voice in the town. Still, Adaora's pain never fully left her. She missed Chijioke, a little boy, every day. She often found herself looking at his favorite football and crying. But she didn't give up. She started a foundation in his name to help other mothers pay for their children's medical care. We finally come to the end of the story, guys. If you find this content interesting, please support me by subscribing to my channel and turning on the notification button so you can always be the first person to get notified anytime I drop a new video, just like this one. Thank you. See you in my next video.